everybody, it's Lori, and I'm here today with my July reading wrap up. In the month of July, I read 17 books. 2 were audiobooks and 15 were ebooks. July was a little extra busy for us, and I did a little more traveling than usual, and so I pretty much ended up reading on my phone a lot. So that's some of why, and another part of why is because I am still on a romance novel kick. It's been a couple months. I don't know, it's a whole new genre for me. So, anyway, I'm going to get started with my classics, my nonfiction, my fiction, and my nonfiction, and then I will get into the long list of romance novels that I read this month. So, in classics, for Jane Austen July, I read Mansfield Park. I actually listened to an audiobook of this. And I'll be honest, I did not love Mansfield Park as much as I thought I would. I thought I'd really relate to the character of Fanny. She sounds, in a lot of ways, like a great protagonist, but I just didn't really love it. And I don't really have a great reason why. Fanny rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. And I just didn't find myself caring about the characters as much. So I'm not a huge Jane Austen person. I think I've only read Pride and Prejudice other than Mansfield Park. I may have had another one that I had to read back in high school, possibly, but that might have just been Pride and Prejudice again. But I'm trying to enjoy Jane Austen a little bit more. My girls enjoy it a lot. It was good. Nothing wrong with Mansfield Park, but it's not one that I would say, ooh, this is a great introduction to Jane Austen. For my nonfiction, for my fiction book that I read Less by Andrew Sean Greer. This is a book about a gay author, a man who, to escape the wedding of his previous lover, says yes to a whole bunch of commitments around the world. So he is going to a lecture in Mexico that they've asked him to speak at, like a conference, and he's teaching a class in Germany for a while, and I think he accepts an award in Italy, and then he I don't know, towards the end he goes on like a birthday trip. He's also turning 50. This book had received some different awards. I'm thinking maybe National Book Award, but off the top of my head, I can't remember what award it was. But the cover drew me in, and I thought, okay, I'll go ahead and read it. Now, this isn't really a book that would be my norm. And honestly, there was enough, kind of, I don't even want to say graphic detail, maybe a little bit of graphic detail, but there were parts that just made me kind of uncomfortable. But I kind of decided to work my way through that and read through the book. And I kind of really enjoyed how it all wrapped up in the end, and then what we find out about the narrator at the end of the book, because you have kind of this narrator that's telling the story, but you don't know who the narrator is until towards the end of the book. So I enjoyed that. So that was Less by Andrew Sean Greer. And for nonfiction, this is one that I listened to. Brett and the girls listened to about half of it with me, and then I had to finish it up on my own. And that is Shakespeare in a Divided America by James Shapiro. And I believe that on one of the Close Read podcasts, one of the hosts suggested this book as something that, I think it was one of the male hosts, that he had enjoyed and thought was a well-done book. So I had put it on my holds list at the library for the audiobook version, and it came through. And so we listened to some of it. We drove to Chicago to visit the University of Chicago and Northwestern and Loyola Chicago and Dominican and just a whole bunch of colleges there. So we listened to a big chunk of it during the drive, and then we had car problems on the way home, and I couldn't handle audiobook with car problems. So we never finished it. It's not that long of an audiobook. I'm thinking maybe it's like 11 or 12 hours. Obviously, a drive to Chicago would have been graciously plenty, drive there and back from Colorado, but we just didn't finish it. So I ended up listening to the rest of it on my own because the girls and I ended up going out of town again. It was a crazy month. So anyway, Shakespeare in a Divided America was very interesting because the author took different historical points in U.S. history and talked about the influence of Shakespeare and how Shakespeare was used by the different sides sometimes, both sides using Shakespeare to point to their conclusions, I guess, of what the world should look like. So it's a wide range of times and issues that are dealt with, but it was just really interesting, and it was one of those nothing is new under the sun sort of things, because so much of kind of the rhetoric we have even now, you could hear in multiple times throughout this book in the different time periods, just the same arguments over and over again. So that was a little depressing, but you also find out that actors are truly weird, but that's okay. So Shakespeare in a Divided America, really good, very interesting. If you love Shakespeare, you'll love this. I don't love Shakespeare, and I still enjoyed it. So okay, I believe now we are on to my giant list of romance novels. So we'll get started and kind of go through them. So obviously, I think I have 14 romance novels on here. Several of them are series or books in a series, so I'll try to speed through them a bit. In true Lori fashion, I read a lot of these books in the wrong order because I always tend to do that. So I'm going to try to talk about them in the order that maybe they should be read rather than the order I read them in. So first up, I read a couple of books by Abby Jimenez. The one you should read first is called The Friend Zone. And this is the story of this is a story of two sets of friends, essentially. So one of the girls is marrying one of the guys, and so the girl's best friend is supposed to be the maid of honor, and the guy's best friend is supposed to be the best man. I can't think of wedding terminology today. This is bad. Anyway, so the maid of honor and the best man have to kind of get along. And they have a little bit of a meeting before they meet. And that meeting kind of colors what they think of each other at first. So they don't really like each other at first, and then they kind of become friends. And then there's a tragedy in this book that kind of brings them more together. So that's The Friend Zone. So the one I actually read first is actually the second book you should read, and that's the Happily Ever After playlist. So it starts with one of the characters from the first book who is involved in the tragedy, and she is dealing with some depression and so forth. She's had a rough time, and she's driving along, and a dog jumps into her car. So she ends up taking this dog home with her and trying to contact the owner. Can't contact the owner, kind of, it's like, okay, my dog now. And then the owner gets back to her. So it's kind of the story of her and this dog owner, who is also a musician, and kind of their story of how they went from kind of a combative relationship, obviously, because she has his dog, he wants his dog back, to more than that. So it was really cute, but reading it first before The Friend Zone kind of told you what was going to happen in The Friend Zone. So Friend Zone first, the Happily Ever After the Happily Ever After playlist second. The next series I read was by Jenny Han. So there are 3 books. To All the Boys I've Loved Before, Always and Forever, Laura Jean, and P.S. I Still Love You. So the basic premise behind this series of books is that we have a high school aged girl. I'm not sure, maybe she's like a junior in the first book. I can't keep track. Anyway, she lives with her dad and 2 sisters, and her older sister is going off to college, and she and the younger sister are still at home with their dad. And over the years, the main character's written like letters to the boys she has had crushes on, that has fallen in love with, explaining why she loved them and why she doesn't love them, or basically writing them love letters, and then she addresses them, puts them in envelopes, and stores them in a special hat box that her mother had given her before her mother passed away. So somehow these letters end up getting sent out to these different boys, and so these 3 books are kind of like the way these different letters play out when the boys receive the letters and how they react, and just the relationship she has that kind of comes out of these letters. So overall, the series. So overall, I think this is a nice series for teenagers. There is some discussion of sex, but it doesn't harp on and on about it. So like older teenagers, I think this would be okay. I wouldn't really recommend this for like preteens or young teenagers, just based on that part of it. Okay, the next set of books I need to look up the order for. Okay, so the next series is definitely an adult series, not for teenagers. Much sex in these books. And that is the Wedding Date series by Jasmine Guillory. And I will tell you, it's not as crucial that you read them in the right order, and I haven't read all of them because it was like whatever I could check out from the library at any given time. So, but I will put them in the order that they kind of go chronologically. So the first one is The Wedding Date, and this is actually the first one I read. And this is a very cute story where a couple, a man and a woman, meet in an elevator. Okay, so the characters in this one are Alexa and Drew. And they meet in an elevator, and Drew is about to go to a wedding that he's very uncomfortable going to, and his girlfriend, or the girl who was going to go with him, kind of backed out on him. he's not really into relationships. They meet in this elevator, and he ends up asking her to go to this wedding with him because they kind of hit it off in the elevator while they were stuck. So she agrees to go with him to this wedding, and kind of a bit of a relationship forms from there, and it's long distance, so there's a little bit of trouble there. But it's kind of a fun story where you find out what's going on at this wedding, because he doesn't tell her everything up front. And so they have to struggle through some different things. One of the things I really like about these books by Jasmine Guillory is that she has characters that are more real in a lot of ways. She has characters of color. She has characters that are heavier, or, like they aren't the prototypical romance novel characters, and I really enjoyed that about these books. So the wedding date was very cute, and so I went on and read more of the books. So the second book is The Proposal, and I have not gotten that one. I have it on hold. Then we have The Wedding Party. Now I have to remember which couple The Wedding Party is about. Oh, and in The Wedding Party, so we have the main character from that first book, the wedding date, the main female character, Alexa. She has a best friend named Maddie, and then like a guy that she works with who's kind of like her work husband. They are very close, named Theo. And they don't like each other, and they're going to be... Why is this like every... Okay, anyway, second book where we've got Maid of Honor and... Well, okay, Anyway, so both Maddie and Theo are going to be in her bridal party. And so they have to do a whole bunch of things together, and they keep somehow ending up having sex with each other and then saying it can never happen again. And so it just kind of goes from there. So they kind of make an agreement that it'll only last until the wedding, and then they're done. And so it just continues on from there. Ends up pretty cute. I mean, they're a cute little couple in this book. Okay. And then the fourth book is Royal Holiday, which is another one I have not read. And then the fifth one is Party of Two. So in Party of Two, I believe the main character in this one is... She might be the sister of Alexa from the first one. It's kind of hard to keep track because you have these different familial and friendship relationships running through all these books. So I think she's Alexa's sister. And she in the first book, in The Wedding Party, I think she's living in New York. So in this book, she's moving to LA to start a law firm with her friend. And she is staying at a hotel at first, and she runs into this guy at the bar, and she kind of recognizes him but can't figure out why, and she just assumes he's some sort of like Hollywood celebrity or whatever because it's LA. And so they flirt a little bit, and it actually turns out that he is a senator, I believe. And so he develops an interest in her from this conversation they had at the bar, and they end up kind of having a bit of a relationship, but they don't really want to go public at first because it's going to be a big deal. And then eventually they do go public with their relationship, and things get very difficult for Olivia right away. So And I think one of the things that is politically charged with their relationship is that this is a multiracial relationship. So she is black, and I believe he is white. And then some details about her past come up that kind of make things more difficult. So they have to kind of struggle through all of this and see if they can make this relationship work. And then the sixth book is While We Were Dating, and I did read this one as well. And the main characters in this one are Ben and Anna. Now, I think Ben is like a friend or brother of one of the other male main characters. Actually, I think he's Theo's brother. See why this is hard to keep track of? Theo from The Wedding Party, who is the co-worker of Alexa from the first book. It's like dealing with my husband's family trying to keep track of all this. So anyway, Ben is in advertising, and he impresses Anna, who is an actress, at a pitch meeting that he isn't supposed to be giving, but his co-workers had flown in that morning and had a delay or something, so he had to do the pitch meeting himself, and she was so impressed that she told the ad company that she was working with that she would prefer to go with them, and if they did, she wanted him to be in charge. So they have kind of this working relationship for a while, and it turns into a little bit of a romance. Neither one of them want to try to start something within this work relationship, but they just feel a connection, and then they end up getting into a bit of a relationship. And then, of course, it is complicated, very much like Party of Two, because Anna is a public figure, is an actress. There's just all sorts of trying to navigate the public sphere. And what is kind of worse in this one is that Anna's manager wants her kind of to use Ben to further her career, just by having almost a fake relationship. And she almost tricks him into it, but then she tells him last minute that that's what she was about to do. And he agrees to do this for her. But then it turns into a little bit more, and they're kind of stuck in this, well, we had agreed to this, but can it be more than that sort of thing. So anyway, those are the books from the Wedding Date series. I enjoyed all of the ones I read. I still have 2 more to read sometime. So I'll probably get to those in the next month or 2. The next one I'd like to talk about is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. Now, this one was really cute, and I wasn't expecting to enjoy it quite as much as I did. Our main character is super quirky and adorable. So she has just gotten out of kind of a bad relationship, and her boyfriend has moved on to a different relationship, but she's still living in his apartment, and so he says she needs to get out. Problem is, she doesn't make a lot of money, and she doesn't really have anywhere to go, so she looks at some apartments that she can afford, and they're just disgusting, and her friends are like, don't live here. But her other option is this weird advertisement for a flat share. So basically, a night nurse is looking to share his flat with somebody, where he would be there during the daytime, during normal work hours, and his roommate would be there during the evening hours. So they're sharing the same bed and everything, because it's like a 1-bedroom flat, but they're there at different times of day. So, this is like obviously a pretty good setup for a romance novel where they're living in the same space. What I really liked is they end up writing Post-its back and forth to each other, and so the apartment is just completely covered in sticky notes all the time. So that's really cute. And she's very quirky, and he's a little more serious. And then he's got some family issues that are driving him and his girlfriend apart. So, eventually he and our main character kind of fall for each other, even though for a long part of the book they've never met. They've just been writing notes back and forth. So they do meet, and there's chemistry, and it's cute. So I really enjoyed the flat share. If you like quirky female main characters, I think this would be a good one. The next one I read is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, and this one is a YA romance novel. It's about two teenagers. One is the son of a family that's owned a deli for several generations, and he works in the deli, and he kind of is in charge of their social media, which his dad, the owner of the deli, really doesn't think is necessary at all. And the other one is the teenage daughter of the what is the word? She's the teenage daughter of a couple who started a fast food franchise that quickly grew. And so her parents separated and her mom moved to New York to run kind of the corporate end of things. And she's really good with social media, the teenage daughter. And even though there is a social media person that they have hired, the teenage daughter ends up helping with things quite a bit. Now, the problem is it appears that this bigger fast food restaurant has stolen a recipe from this little deli. And so they get into a bit of a Twitter war, and they don't know it, but they're classmates at the same time. So they eventually figure out who each other, they figure out that they're kind of arguing on Twitter, having this little Twitter war between the family deli and the company, and they decide to continue doing it because it's actually helping the business at the small deli quite a bit, because they were having troubles making ends meet because they just didn't have that many people coming in. But this kind of Twitter war has increased the interest, so they decide to continue this, but they also kind of are chatting on this anonymous app within their school, and they don't know who they're talking to, but they're talking to each other. So they're kind of falling for each other in this anonymous app while having this Twitter war in person. So it's very cute. I enjoyed it. Very clean romance novel for teenagers. I think both girls read it after me because it was just pretty much adorable. So highly recommend Tweet Cute if you're looking for a cute YA romance novel. The next couple books I read are by Catherine McGee, and they are American Royals and Majesty. So American Royals is like a alternate history romance novel series. So basically, in this alternative history, George Washington said, "Sure, I'll be king." And so the Washingtons have been kings of America since then, and the current prince and princesses, there's two princesses and a prince. The younger two are twins, the princess and the prince, and the oldest is going to become the first queen of America. So they have different friends that come from different backgrounds, that you kind of see the difference between their lifestyles. They're kind of getting into college age, so like the friends are off at college, and the royals are doing kind of a gap year and things like this. But it just gets very complicated very quickly. And of course, with one being the heir to the throne, her parents are trying to encourage her to pick a husband to get married because she's going to, take over. So she has all this pressure to find a husband, and then she's also got this relationship with her younger sister and younger brother who are also pretty much grown. So it gets very complicated very quickly. So the first book focuses quite a bit on the oldest daughter being encouraged to try to find an appropriate husband. And of course, there's a very limited number of people considered appropriate as a husband to her. And she actually has romantic feelings towards a commoner, and so that's a problem. And then in the second book, this storyline continues on, but she is ascending to the throne, basically. So she's being pushed even more, and she has this advisor who is not good to her, so she's got that to deal with, and she's just got a whole lot going on there. And then when she becomes the queen, that means her younger sister, the next oldest, is now the heir because she doesn't have any children. So the middle child's role changes from just kind of like the spare to the heir, and that makes a big difference in how she is perceived, I guess. I don't know. These were interesting. It's a weird mix of teenage drama and alternate history with royals. So if that sounds interesting, it's definitely not the sort of plot line you see every day. And then the last romance novel I'm going to talk about is Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. And this is the first Christina Lauren book I have read. I enjoyed it. I liked Hazel a lot, another really quirky character. Apparently I like quirky characters in romance novels. But basically, Josh and Hazel knew each other in college, and Hazel is constantly embarrassing herself in front of Josh. And they kind of meet again at this barbecue that Hazel is going to with one of her friends, where she's going to be meeting some of her new coworkers because she's an elementary school teacher and she's changing schools. And it turns out that her best friend is actually the sister of Josh, and they didn't know it until this point. So Hazel decides that Josh is going to be her best friend too, and they start hanging out more. And they come up with an idea to set each other up on blind dates and go out on double date blind dates. And so hilarity ensues, obviously. And then they start developing feelings for each other, which makes them want to continue these dates, but they don't actually want to be dating the blind dates they are dating. So another very cute romance novel, but this one is also quite adult. So I wouldn't recommend it for younger people. So those were my July books. I hope you enjoyed hearing about them. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe if you are so inclined, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.